I remember one working group where one of the individuals in the working group kind of offered the opinion that at that particular time, they were a political party with an armed wing.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, like the Republican Party having not only its power in the Congress and its power politically, but it also had an army, which was, I think, a reality.
Yeah.
And it just was a powerful reality because they had better leadership than the others.
There is no way, Carl, to put Hezbollah and this new government in Lebanon together because there's so much influence by the United States and
yes,
I don't know, Europeans, and I don't know how we can bring these two parts of the Lebanese society together.
You still
That's
have
French civil war within the society, which would benefit Israel.
Yeah, we play on that all the time. We've been playing on it for years, and so is Israel. That's how we keep the other part of the government functioning on our behalf, even to the point where in that very meeting that I was just referring to, we were talking at that time about IMET and International Military Education and Training, and we were talking about doing more with Lebanon, and we were doing it with the Lebanese military because we wanted to train them to be as good. Really, the purpose was to train them to be as good as that other armed party. And so we were creating the fertile ground for a civil war in Lebanon. We knew damn well we were doing that, but we thought we would win. And of course, Israel was right in the middle of it.
Larry, here is what Robert Kagan, I don't know if you watched his recent interview yesterday or the day before.
I refuse to torture myself that way, but okay.
Be like watching Bolton get convicted. Oh no, I like that.
Yeah, and I had the popcorn out for that.
Yeah, it actually seems to have been a trial on the issues too, not like me or some of the other trumped up charges.
Okay, so what did our buddy Kagan do or say?
Here is what he said.
Summarize what I think you just said about where we stand now is that Iran will effectively control the strait. The enriched uranium, I assume, will not be taken out. They will help control of what Israel can do in southern Lebanon. And there's not been a regime change except for to a younger, more radical regime. That seems absolutely unacceptable. Is there any alternative? Is there anything that can be done?
Unfortunately, just because something is unacceptable doesn't mean that we're not going to have to accept it. And again, I suppose there is some kind of war that the United States could fight, which would be a multi-month war at the very least. It would require risking losing ships, in the strait. When you convoy in a contested area, you lose ships. In addition to which, I don't think that the strait will be safe again as long as this regime is in power. And so, if you really wanted to, I suppose, solve the problem, although I'm not sure what kind of solution it is, you'd have to invade and occupy Iran and stay there for a long time so that you had a new regime. And I just think there's no way the American people are interested in doing that. And I'm not even sure I would recommend doing that at this point because the costs are going to be enormous. So, we have to accept the fact that this is a loss. I mean, we have lost in the past. We've lost previous wars in Vietnam, obviously. Unfortunately, this one has much, as we've been discussing, much greater strategic ramifications than the loss in Vietnam did, actually.
Yeah.
Well, he's not, I'll take back things I said about him being stupid. He's not completely stupid. He made some actually astute, correct observations. Now, he failed to consider one other alternative. The strait will be safe. Just negotiate a deal with Iran where you leave them the hell alone.
Yeah.
Stop trying to destroy the Islamic Republic. And, we pretend that this is about a fanatical religious regime that's hanging homosexuals and, burning virgins and, all sorts of ridiculous nonsense. No, it's just the United States is fundamentally pissed off at the Iranian the Iranians who rose up and overthrew a CIA-installed regime. That's it.
Bingo.
Yeah.
Bingo.
How dare they do that? We're the ones that are controlling the world, not them.
And there's a lot of that affects what we look like and are with regard to Russia too.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's like, if we pretend like this is about religious extremism, really? Then why in the hell are we selling shit to Saudi Arabia? Okay.
And why do we have Pete Hegseth having prayer meetings in the Pentagon?
Yeah.
Where's the theocracy?
Yeah, just our hypocrisy reeks, and rarely do we actually come down and admit to why we're trying to do something and trying to accomplish. I mean, I sent a long note last night to John Kiriakou because when he started at CIA, his account was Iraq, and the psychological profile of Saddam, and I remember in the 90s, I bought into the Saddam is a demon kind of theology that the U.S. was preaching, but now with benefit of some experience and hindsight, and now being able to understand the history, we had a relationship with Saddam at least starting in 1980, if not before. And in 1980, it accelerated because of a finding that Jimmy Carter signed off on that authorized a CIA operation to work with the Iraqis, Saddam in particular, and to take out Iran. This was an attack. This whole thing to, from Carter's standpoint, get a war started with Iran, so weaken them, so they release the hostages. It continued under Ronald Reagan, and my old outfit, the CIA, was the principal involved with liaison, both gathering support in the Gulf among the Gulf Arabs to fund Saddam's operation, providing precursor chemicals for chemical weapons, providing biological agents for biological weapons, providing intelligence so Iraq would know where to attack, where the Iranian weaknesses were, where the forces were concentrated. And the only thing that ruined that relationship with the CIA was Iran-Contra, because once Saddam found out that he was being, betrayed by the CIA, selling weapons to Iran, he booted them and then turned to insisted he'd only deal with U.S. military officials. Hence, Pat Lang and then Lieutenant Colonel Rick Francona were the ones hand carrying that intelligence. So, but do you believe that during that 1981 to 1988, 89 period, that Saddam was not in contact or having regular conversations with U.S. diplomats in Baghdad? Oh, of course he was. And then all of a sudden, after he tells us that he's going to, the Kuwait's stealing oil and asks us, you guys got a problem with it? We say no. Then all of a sudden we turn him into this demonic, evil reincarnation of Adolf Hitler. I mean, the United States keeps doing this shit repeatedly. Over and over and over and over. We did it to Manuel Noriega. We did it to Muammar Gaddafi. We did it to Saddam Hussein. We've been trying to do it to Iran. We're doing it to Russia. And, so it's just, at some point, the United States needs to look in the mirror and say, you know what? The problem's not out there. The problem's here. We're the problem. We need to fix ourselves before we go out claiming that we're here to fix the world.
Just to reinforce what Larry said, when Peter Kornblue got that huge tranche of principal documents from the agency and other places, National Security Council documents and so forth, at the National Security Archives over at George Washington University, two of the things I pulled out in my look at it was the comment very early on. I think we were looking at probably the days after the coup. And the CIA statement I withdrew from there was that this is a young man we can work with, or something to that effect, that the CIA's analysis of Saddam Hussein.
The coup.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the other one I pulled out was the CIA report from the Sierra Madre, where they were with Fidel. and they were cautioning on taking any adverse action against what he was doing, because what he was going to do was get rid of a very filthy regime, and that we could probably work with him in the future. And of course, you know, he actually did come to America and talk with people about not being adverse to U.S. interests, if you will, and so forth. I think it was during Nixon. And look what happened there. We turned him into a anathema, communist to the hilt, and he went that route because we didn't give him any other choice. So it's a recurring theme in American history, particularly post World War II history.
Yeah, and just one more brief anecdote related to that. OSS officer named Fusilier. I knew his son, Burley Fusilier, who was a diplomatic security agent and actually head of diplomatic security at one point. So Burley's father was in Vietnam, and he was working with a guy named Ho Chi Minh. And it was a young Ho Chi Minh. But you know, Ho Chi Minh was talking about his goal was liberating his country from French oppression. But later we made it into somehow this was communism trying to take over the world. We had to stop communism. And you know, we get 59,000 Americans killed. And that's the ones that died in combat. We don't count the casualties of the ones who went on and died from drug overdose and suicide and homelessness because of the traumatic mental injuries inflicted as a consequence of that war. And we keep, as Colonel Wilkerson said, we keep doing it over and over. We got to stop.